right from there.
Thanks, Andy. Very often the future is rooted in the past. So I was at dinner last night or having drinks and I don't know who it was asked me, so you work for Epic Conjoint, yeah. And what do you do? So I'm going to give you a bit of the genesis, the backstory of Epic Conjoint, because it obviously has a strong bearing on where we're going. And Andy has given you a flavour, but we're going even further again into the realms of AI. So let's get going. We'll keep it short and sweet. So the genesis of Epic Conjoint. I had the good fortune of working for a company that was, I want to say, customer focused, customer obsessed. O2. It eventually became Telefonica, but O2. These, they had reams and reams and reams of customer data, but it wasn't enough. You can imagine. We all have mobile bills. You see where location, behavior, usage, spend, where we're spent. That wasn't enough. They invested massively in customer research, customer insights. There's constant big teams within the marketing department where we're constantly talking to customers, listening to customers. It went one step further. Nothing got to the stage close to before I left where nothing got out the door in terms of a proposition or an offer of significance. Where the C-suite, so we had the pricing governance committee, we had the go-to-market governance, the CCO, the CFO sat on these, and they were like, prove to us the customer has either asked for that, or wants it, or needs it, and prove to us they're willing to pay that price you're putting on it. And that's where we became disciples of conjoint analysis. That's where it was rooted. But at the time, we had to rely on agencies and consulting firms to conduct these studies. So they were long, they were cumbersome, and very, very expensive. So they weren't conducive to. We really needed many more burning product and pricing questions that we needed answers to, that we couldn't use Conjoint for. So then I took a role. I had a group pricing for a Qatari telecom group called Ooredoo. It was originally QTEL Qatar Telecom, and they rebranded to Ooredoo. And they had operations all over North Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia. Amazing markets, very diverse, you can imagine. I absolutely loved the experience. But my role there was to bring best practice pricing tools, skills, and process to the group operations. Because actually it was a complete shit show what was going on, the amount of reckless pricing decisions that were getting made. In Indonesia it was like day trading. They were literally launching offers every day. There were different offers. So we're just trying to put more rigor and controls on these pricing decisions and offers. And I really wanted to bring conjoint analysis, having been a convert, into the group operation and the process to implement that rigor, and that's where I went looking for something off the shelf to really kind of industrialize it within the group operations, and nothing as well. I spoke to Nielsen's and the Simon Kuchers and whatnot. They all wanted to make a project out of it, which again was very expensive and whatnot, but it didn't meet the needs. So that's where I kind of, at that aha moment, where I kind of just stuck it in my back pocket and I said, I'll come back to this at some future point. And that's where, so Epic was conceived in Qatar in about roughly 2015. And then I left as a family. We moved out there as a family. We left Qatar in the middle of 2016. And that's where I wanted to have a crack at launching Epic, developing and launching a conjoint solution that could be, it was kind of democratizing conjoint analysis, demystifying it, and enable companies to use it much more frequently to address their product and pricing questions. So we took it. Oh, sorry, go back again. Just a little bit. Oh, sorry, Neha. Yeah, Neha, actually, I badgered Neha with this slide, so I'm so really sorry I had to skip over. But this, over the course of a year, so we moved back to Ireland in 2016, rather than going back into corporate world and trying to build the MVP, I said, no, we'll take a gap year as a family, and we bought a motorhome, and we toured Europe for about 12 months. So Epic was born in the back of a motorhome going around Europe. So what we loosely were trying to do was touch the most, anyone know the most westerly point in mainland Europe? Cabo de Rocco, Portugal? I'd never know, I didn't know it. It was another motorhomer said that they were doing it, so we said, well, we'll do the same. The most southerly point, mainland Europe, not talking about the Greek Isles, but actually the mainland. Nope. It's Tarifa in Spain. And the most easterly, we went all the way over to Alex's neck of the woods, over to Brasov in Transylvania. And then we turned south, as you can see, and we went down to Montenegro, and then we drove all the way up to the most northerly point in mainland Europe, is Nordkap, the top of Norway. That point, we're about 700 kilometers inside the Arctic Circle. It was really weird, really sweet. We stopped off in Finland, halfway up Finland. I was telling Vivi last night, in June, and my kids were sitting on Santa's lap in the middle of June, and that totally flipped them, threw them for a wobbler. So it was an amazing experience. My wife is an absolute saint. Kids haven't haven't talked to me since. They felt like they were hijacked or kidnapped for a year and locked in the back of a home. Small, you can think of it as the size of your double room with their parents for a year. So yeah, we arrived back in, while we were in Spain, we stopped off to maximize the summer temperatures, winter sunlight. We stopped off in Spain towards the end of December, just before Christmas, and we lived in the south of Spain. We actually lived up in one of those whitewashed Moorish villages in Andalusia, up the mountains, about a kilometre up. We stuck the three girls into the local school. Again, we weren't too popular for that. But that's where I actually had done the requirements document. I had to run the RFQ. And we ran it with a Irish software house, German software house, Romanian software house, and a Ukrainian software house. And what came back, the Ukrainian software house came back with the best tender. And from that point then, yeah, we set about developing the MVP. And by the time I rolled off, we rolled off the ferry in just the port, just over here, close to where you were running this morning. That was August 2017. We had the MVP ready to go out and start selling. So at that point, I leveraged my network in telecom. Conjoint is used very frequently in telecom, so I was pushing an open door, and that's where I had my network. I used to attend the conferences, and so that kind of got us going from that point. And this is where we're at now. So we serve a lot of. It's very versatile. Conjoint analysis. So you'll see the first column there is telecom, when we've all the big telecom companies. We do this all over Europe and the world for them. Obviously, we're making a big drive into FMCG, which is why we're hosting this event. But we've done a lot of stuff on auto, healthcare, increasingly healthcare, consumer goods, but then in B2B, and particularly in the US, some big, these are probably companies you've never heard, you've seen Square and PwC, US, North America would use us as well. But Carrier, ADP are our second biggest customer. That's a software, payroll HR software solution. They test everything. They're buying 20-pack survey packs every 6 months. And they test rigorously. Dell are a big client of ours. That's Dell Global. And then the indirect channel is the management consulting firms. Even PE companies use us to go in and do diagnostics where they suspect there's a need for it. So that's where we've gotten. So we've done something right, I think. Now pushing on from areas, because I think I said to Heather last night, I said, my biggest fear is actually it gets easy, and it's selling and it's everything. As an entrepreneur, you want to keep pushing. You don't want to get bored. So that's what we just described was Epic 1.0. This is where we wanted to demystify and democratize conjoint analysis, to open it up and allow companies to use it. It is the most powerful research methodology when it comes to trying to determine, price points and preferences, customer preferences. So that's what we've done. So instead of taking typically, and this is based on my experience, 2 to 3 months to conduct a conjoint survey, costing an absolute fortune, a bit of a head-wrecking exercise, we can do it in less than a week. In fact, we've done it in days. The record is for Vodafone Group, we did 4 conjoints in their 4 big markets in Europe in 3 days. That's design, field work to results. That's what we do, and we bring that conjoint expertise. In transparency, all transparency, I thought we would develop a self-service conjoint solution where we could put the power into the hands of users and RGM and pricing people in these organizations. I mean, we've done the guts of 1,000 conjoints at this stage. Everyone has slightly different nuances, and that's where we still need that expert layer, and that's what we bring with the team here, the guys, Wesley, Neha, and Connor, and Louise driving the team. So, Epic 2.0, basically what Andy took you through, so I'm not going to leverage that, kind of, democratizing use cases, developing all these different shelf displays, the e-commerce solution, the restaurant quick QSR, quick service restaurant solution. We work with Popeyes and Burger King in the US. Epic 3.0. So this is where we want to take the democratization to the next level. And we want to broaden the applicability of Conjoint to users and markets. So very often the groups, the FMCG groups we work with, we tend to test in their core markets, maybe their top 10 markets quite a bit. But they're in so many more markets in the Middle East, in emerging markets. So that's what we're going to facilitate with our AI solution, the ability for, let's just say, maybe less sophisticated users, definitely markets that wouldn't have the data you would get in the bigger core markets, where they can deploy Conjoint very quickly and cost effectively, and interpret and interrogate those results, in a very quick and easy manner. And that's what we're relying on our AI solution, at least the first stage of our AI solution, to facilitate that. So yeah, just we want to open up into the emerging markets. It's one of, when you read Frederick Fernandez and whatever, this is one of the growth areas, and we want to be there and help facilitate that and allow FMCG and manufacturers to test in these markets. We can pretty much test in any market worth calling a market, and we're very proud of that. So at this point, we're going to have a demo, and I'm going to hand over to Connor. Connor's background is consulting in AI and machine learning. Did it for how many? 5-6 years in Australia?
5-6 years in Australia, 3 or 4 here. Every industry starting off in econometrics, where I cut my teeth, where statistics was the name of the game. And then did I pick the right wave to carry for the next 10 years? From data science, data, big data, and now AI. So with that, hold on there. Oh, always.
So yeah, so what Connor's going to do, we've been working on this prototype and getting great feedback. We have Professor Barry Smith, who is the head of the data science school in UCD, the university. He's our advisor on this. Barry's an academic. He's built and launched two very successful businesses himself, technology businesses. So Barry's our advisor on this. And yeah, we got great feedback from Barry the other day that we're on the right track with this. And Connor's going to show you why Barry was so impressed.
So I'll probably take this. Hello, everyone. I think everyone else is worrying about their slides, but this is going to be the curse of the live demo. We're going to walk you through 3 different stages, and this is going to build on what Andy talked about, is that innovation. Talking about democratizing these insights. I think everyone here, they're drowning in data. All you see every day, AI, ML, data, constantly. And you're like, just give me the answer. Just give me the answer. I asked the question. I really want to kind of cut through this noise. And this noise is going to continue for the next 10 years. And what we're trying to do is cut through it. We talked about the previous model there of that consultancy and agency model. And it really is that time to go from designing to getting the results, and then it's the interpretation. How does this apply to my problem, my customer's problem, my pricing challenges? How do I align this with the retailers? And how do I even engage into accelerating my team's development? We talk about it all the time that people, the attrition in teams allows such a short time to become an expert. And this is one of the core benefits of minimizing time and using AI's advanced reasoning to really act as a co-pilot, having that expert within your team. So today, I'm going to walk through a demo. This is Alpro, if anyone here is vegan or vegetarian. They're very familiar with Alpro around oat milk. And this is one of our demo studies where it actually builds on the innovation from Andy last year around a fridge conjoint, where we tested different messaging price points in our fridge conjoint. And we have our standard kind of login on the side, but let's put this to one side. So what would have taken those kind of hours of running through the analysis is now kind of available at a click. And you'll see it here with that getting yourself started, getting all the results. Everyone has sat there with a report or dashboard, and they're like, I just need to get going. I just need the top insights. So what we have here as well, we have our top ranking prompts as well that shuffle through, and this kind of gives that insight straight away. So enough pre-ramble, Connor, show the damn thing. So anyway, what we have here, as it goes in, we're talking within 6 and 10 seconds, you start actually getting a pretty good oversight of your conjoint results. So very quickly, you kind of get the top level. And this is that next generation of beforehand, anyone starting off, learning, going through tools, clicking on tools, you can just ask questions or use the top ranking prompts. And there's 2 key benefits as well as we talk about, like, how does this differentiate from, say, ChatGPT or Claude? Well, I hope everyone here doesn't do it, but I've seen people do it, even on the bus today. You throw in your business reports, you throw in your business data, your competitive intelligence on what you work so hard and paid ourselves to actually run these studies. You throw that into ChatGPT, that's out in the public sphere. It's gone. Now it's accessible by all your competitors. By building this into a very data secure environment, and this is actually one of our huge achievements at Epic Conjoint last year, was getting SOC 2 certification, which is one of the highest data security certifications available through vendors. So that's number 1. And number 2, it's the right tool for the right job. This is built off the knowledge base of conjoint analysis, of UX research and pricing analytics. This gives you the right tool at the right time. Like, you think if you're using ChatGPT for everything, it's like someone who is an expert, an absolute expert at pub quizzes. I'm not trusting them in other areas. Great general knowledge, but what we really want is precision. And this is what this tool gives. So at the very top, you get a couple of different top ranking prompts. You can ask questions in there. But let's kind of try something a little bit harder. How price sensitive are Irish consumers, and what is their willingness to pay for different product configurations? These are tough questions of breaking out overall price sensitivity,
breaking out different price points, what the simulated market share would be, the price elasticities, and also that market response to testing these ideas. Understanding key thresholds, willingness to pay, you get the picture. It gives you this snapshot straight away. And for emerging markets, this gives them that power to kind of lift that capability. You think of analysts joining teams, this just lifts their capability up to a level that can really support senior managers and directors making the bigger decisions. So that's kind of level one. But what about kind of digging deeper? And it's hard. You've seen that interface. Yeah, there's a chat, there's top ranking, but it's kind of hard. You need to see some information to ask questions. Not everyone has the burning questions at the top of their mind. They need to see the results and know what's next. How do I use this and apply it to my problems? So this is where kind of we combine what the technology has been over the last 10 years of advanced kind of dashboarding that can be built up very quickly. And you start getting kind of more advanced kind of interactive reporting. And then couple that with AI. So now you're not just getting something that's static. For the love of God, I'd love to just bury PowerPoint. And then people can log in, ask a question, get the answers, and everyone saves themselves moving around little boxes. And you can see as here, we're going to be developing this, and this is an MVP. But I'm going to touch on kind of this analysis here, because this is what Malachi and Andy touched on earlier, but actually breaking out like price corridor analysis. And this is that breakdown between the now probably going to be emerging with any upcoming recession, is the value market, the key threshold, where your current core is, the optimal pricing, and then understanding the difference between that core and that barista, and then the premium in the oat milk market. And having this kind of inspires you then to ask those questions around optimal price structures, understanding the different breakdown across not one product, but across your portfolio. And this is what gives you that power. And this is that consultancy model that in the first section, hours to minutes, weeks to a few minutes. Like it's accelerating because your market is accelerating. We talked about there, instead of FMCG, it's via FMCG. And we need to keep on top of this because it's one of the common questions we get all the time. What's the difference between conjoint analysis and marketing mix modeling? And this is my specialty. I built those models, but it's built off historical 3-year information. It's not what your customers are thinking right now. You're not going to trust what was in 2022 to inspire you for your 2026 planning. And this is our third kind of component here. And this is something that is coming soon, is around that real-time kind of market pricing. And say, let's take the oat milk pricing trends in Irish retailers. I was very, very happy. I still had the separation between your Lidl and your Aldi and your Tesco Dunnes Super Value leading it, and seeing obviously your Super Value taking over in the Irish market. But then actually understanding what these price dips were over the last recent 30 days. And this is something that brings not just the research you've done with us, but actually taking all that market information that you have, your sales, your pricing, to inspire this. And we can expand this. If commodity pricing is one of those things that is influencing your decision, we can build this in. So this is our new prototype. We are currently in the MVP stage. Pretty much this quarter, Matt's like, please build me it, get it all ready. And then our next quarter is going to be testing. It's really handing it into the hands of people who are making these decisions, because the questions, the structure, this is what I think, and that's worth nothing. We really want to actually have it in the hands of real customers to be able to design this to accelerate your teams. We walked in there, and on the front poster, it's got supercharge. And this is what it's going to do. It's not going to replace your teams, but it's going to give you that power to keep up with the new market trends. And this is our new MVP AI Insights Engine. So thank you. Any questions on data AI? More than happy to ask. There you go.
Sorry, just on that. Sorry, Alex.
Got a mic?
No,
Oh,
I love it because this is where it's supposed to go.
yeah.
I need to understand not now the security model of the data,
Yeah,
the protocols to transfer the data from
Yeah.
to you, and how big it can be.
yeah. So I can answer that very, very quickly within, I'll just speed up my talking cadence. You build all these things the same way you built our current systems. We build it through AWS, so scale is not a problem. You build it into these containers, which is how 75% of the whole internet works, the whole the banking industry works, is breaking this out. So this is separate. Those API calls are called through AWS, not through the vendors. If you engage with one of those vendors, ChatGPT, or even through Microsoft, to be brutally honest, you're giving a lot of this information away. They will depersonalize it, but they will be giving it away. And this is where you bucket it in that way, and it's called foundation models. Is that you actually take the foundation, you train it to be your expert, what I touched on earlier. You don't want a pub quiz champion, you want a pricing expert. And actually making sure that you have the expertise built into the reasoning for the model, and your data is securely stored. And that's our model going forward, if that helps.
I have a follow-up on
Yeah.
I think thank you. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I can see how it will make like so much easier to share the results with teams that haven't used Conjoint before.
Mhm.
But how dependent on the quality of the design are we still?
It's everything, and it is actually one of those problems. From the earlier iterations, it's around understanding limitations. And we think about even making recommendations that we're not a pricing consultancy of giving this recommendation and assigning our name to it. It's building up these considerations for you to take that decision. The design matters more, but from that's actually one of the core inputs for contextualization. So from setting up your design and also all that feedback, all that soft stuff, we're concerned about our competitors, we're concerned here, that adds that framing for it. So it's not just pointing at the results, the context is built in there. And then on top of that is actually building in all the different guardrails around it. Being a little bit more conservative. When I was talking with Andy there last week, I was bringing him through, and he was like, what I really want, I want a low, medium, and high recommendation, and I'll be the judge of what to take. And that's the way around it, is giving the actual multiple choice, because at the end of the day, the responsibility is on those managers and those teams making that call, and all we can do is add guidance. So that's our approach. Until maybe super AI comes in the next year and it's going to tell us we're all idiots. But that's our approach now, is to give that choice to our customers with the supporting evidence, because the responsibility is still going to be on you. Like self-driving cars, the responsibility is always on the driver.
It's a great question, Beatrice. It's still really important, but we feel we can point AI, machine learning at the survey design part of the process as well. That's actually was going to be the next phase. Without giving too much away at this stage, we just want to take it step by step, unlock the analysis first, and instead of taking, some clients love our simulation dashboard as it is, but it takes time and patience and concentration, and this could be at your fingertips. That's where we want to go. So this is kind of the low-hanging fruit. And then the survey design part, that's the tricky one.
Because right now we still need a lot of support in that part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right.
So just actually, at the point Connor was saying, the next stage, we're actually building this, and we have a PhD coming in now to actually code it with Connor and Pavel. But we will want to be testing this with friendly customers, so we're open to customers.
Yeah.
But for a new market and for a new brand, the input it's coming from where? From the brand, or from the researches you are running on that market for that brand? Or what is the source of the input for a new market, for a new brand?
So the source is the conjoint data. So we're collecting that information. So design your survey, and then from the survey we get our modeling results, which actually can tell you more around what feature, the feature importance relative to the other market. But it goes back to that design, including competitors into that market and understand those dynamics. But it kind of builds exactly what Matt touched on. It's like we've seen it over the years that all the conjoints actually start changing, and this is where there still is going to be that support model that's needed, but it'll have to be per client basis on what does the real-time market really look like, and what is the existing substitutes available, and where are you positioning.
But it is, just to answer your question, so we do a lot of price testing, as you can imagine, de-risking price increases, maybe decrease in promotions, but innovation is becoming increasingly important. So we can test new products in new markets as well. We just need the imagery for that product that'll appear on the shelf at that store or in that market. So we rely on our clients to provide that imagery for us, but the rest is pretty straightforward.
So,
any other questions?
oh, we have a question.
Malky.
It's really interesting. The word simulation kind of really resonates with me. I remember when I joined one of my previous employers, talking about internal metrics of success and how cheap they were versus key competitors. And based on this metric, our business should be doing much better. And at the time, I was a Formula One fan, and it's all about simulation there. You know, you design a different wing, but you don't actually design it. You put it into a program, and it does computational fluid dynamics, and you decide whether that wing is worthwhile committing to the factory and putting onto the racetrack. But effectively, the business I worked on, they reckoned they had a great design car, but when I got onto the track, it was a dog. It just wasn't racing versus the competitors.
Yeah.
And it's because they were telling themselves all sorts of lies. I suppose where I'm leading on to is the ability of something like this to model and simulate not just one product, but a whole subcategory or category. How far off are you?
That's the main thing of conjoint analysis, is that you're running. So we run the choices. Andy touched on it there. You run the choices. They're given the choice between all the attributes. It's kind of randomized across it. Then we apply it over 10,000 rate simulation. So our survey scales from the 300 you pay for to a 10,000 survey across all the different attributes. What this does is you get a sensitivity per every attribute you have shown. And that is our simulator. It is that simulation of the market. When we talk about preference share, that is the preference share of what's included. Now, there is pros, there is cons. Small challenger markets, it's hard because you're not in the bigger proportion of that simulated market. It's easier when you're a bigger fish because you can see the dynamics there. But that's why I pick conjoint analysis over marketing mix modeling. Because marketing mix modeling is looking backwards, while conjoint is looking forward based on the exact dates you collected your information. And that is kind of one of the core like functionalities on our existing platform. And we run our Bayesian models in the background. And anyone who's been on the platform, it takes like 30 seconds to run it in the background. That is the most jacked up machine in AWS that we can have, and it's running that computation that our models actually originally used to take days to run because it runs that computation for the simulations. And now it's down to hours with some technological progress, but that is actually one of the core benefits of our existing platform.
Coincidentally, we're talking to Formula One. They own Las Vegas. It's the only race they own, and they want to understand ticket pricing, put a little more rigor into their ticket pricing for such a bend or such a stand, and the bundling the accessories and whatnot. So it's fascinating.
Well, you push an open door, they'd love that.
Yeah.
We can model the track and model the interface. We can put the track up there and test those ticket prices at those various parts of the track. So.
And that's the whole thing that we're doing, is like we're creating this digital twin through the survey, through the platform, it is trying to represent as close to humanly possible that consumer choice at scale. And it is just changing the context that people are trying to make decisions in.
Just to give you a good, like a classic use case was in Cagney, where C-levels were getting up on the stage and saying, yeah, we think we can take more price, and we're using price elasticities or historical price elasticities to underpin those decisions. And using historical, first of all, there's a misconception it's one number. It's not. It's a curve, and we model the curve, and we can tell you where the plateau and the cliffs are. But that's reckless, using a historical price elasticity to set prices that have never appeared in the marketplace before. So, needless to say, we're talking to some of the investment analysts, investment banks. They're very, very interested in what the level of insight and rigor we can bring to pricing and products and preferences. So.
Anecdotal. I've been asked by senior people, give me an elasticity number for the globe.
Yeah. For the globe. It's not one number.
Yeah.
I think is that it?
Is that it?
Yeah, we just do a wrap up then, I think, because.
Yeah. On to the whiskey tour. Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much as well. And I'll hand this back over to Matt.
Okay, so